Very close. Okay. Good evening, Gotham. Good evening, Metropolis. Emerald City, Xanadu, Babylon, to the ISS, and the rest of you. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, as the case may be. It is 1 a.m. on the East Coast. It is 9 a.m. in Moscow. It's 3 p.m. in Tokyo. And it is 10 p.m. in Pomona, California. So, good evening. Here is the headlines of the last 24-hour news cycle for 3/19/2022. An interesting turn of events depending upon which media outlets you skim or watch with any regularity. CNN, MSNBC, Fox, News Nation now, PBS, CBS, ABC, NBC. And it's becoming torturous as it's day 23 of the military maneuvers, military exercises that Vladimir Putin's Russian forces are conducting in Ukraine. Um, at a rally in Moscow, Vladimir Putin, of course, as they celebrate the annexation of Crimea and etc. Um, President Zelensky appears in a video that is suspicious in its sizing, proportioning, scaling, and was it CGI? Was he in the square? Where is he? What is this? But that he and Putin need to meet, and I have all of the clips. They're on my Twitter feed, V Scooter McGee. Social media, Scooter McGee on Facebook. Support this project, hopefully, on Patreon. Watch a couple of shows. Subscribe, like, share with your friends. Embed in a virus and send it to the enemies in Russia on YouTube. I'd appreciate that. I just want to make sure I have Zelensky's quotes correctly. They're all screenshot. Yeah, okay. So I'm just going to roll through this. There is a lot in, again, a Take Out the Trash News weekend. Celebrations with NASA as the interesting parallels of the symbolism of colors now, even in space, with the introduction of new crew on the International Space Station and the accidental. We had extra yellow fabric and we had to make some suits to get. Okay, well, that clearly makes no sense, especially if we're supposed to believe about the radiation, the toxic environments, and the hostile environments and the high spec standards required, to be in space. Now, argumentatively, of course, I don't have. There we go. The astronaut pen where you can write upside down. The Soviets used a pencil. Soviets, the Russians, have unleashed, confirmed because Russia said so. They used a hypersonic missile to take out what they allege was a underground ammunition warehouse in the Ukraine. This raising concerns of the members of the international community when it comes to strategy and their jobs and national security. We know everybody's got them. This is just the first time it's been used. Now, where this goes in the escalation of tension, couldn't tell you, but we're in this for the long haul, people. We are in this for the long haul. It's going to take weeks for Vladimir Putin to understand that his army is stalled. The strategy now is he controls the portions of Eastern Europe until this nonsense, if Kyiv falls, does Ukraine. No, you control the ports, you control the east, the far east towards the border, and you push from the north to the south. Poland is the one having the crippling issues. Well over 1.5 million refugees just in Poland alone. Expecting another 300,000 in Germany. 300,000. Okay, wait a minute. And now, according to the United Nations, 6.5 million refugees as of what was 5 p.m. on 3/19/22. The Pentagon continues to escalate its rhetoric, which we expect to see on the Sunday morning talk shows for 320, that Russia is going to use chemical weapons. This in light of and without them knowing the hypersonic missile had been used in what is to the west our overnight, but right there in broad daylight. Mortgage rates have now hit 4% for the first time since 2019. Moderna has asked for a second booster for the BA2 as the BA2 is becoming more prevalent. And unlike Pfizer and their request for it to be those who are highly susceptible and or to the elderly, Moderna is requesting this for all use. Two states have decided so far, I believe it's Maryland and Georgia. Maryland and Georgia suspending their gas tax for the next 30 days, 29%, 29%, 29 cents per gallon to 37 cents per gallon, depending upon if you're in Georgia or Maryland. More states expected to follow. That number was 22 as of last night. States in which the governors were asking the members of the legislature, weeks. This is going on for weeks, people. They're staging meetings. They're having peace talks. They're arranging delegations. They're traveling overseas. Meanwhile, 4 Marines, Semper Fi, died in Norway in a NATO training exercise in an Osprey. Do I have to bleep myself? Jesus H on a popsicle stick. Um, the Marines stationed out of Camp Lejeune were part of a pass the joint task training force exercise with NATO. They were in the Osprey. They were reported originally missing, then presumed dead. Pentagon confirming they're dead. This in the last 31 hours of the 24-hour day. If you didn't crawl out from under a rock, you've probably in your various states and your state's connection to the delegation of members of Congress. You should be genuflecting when you say that. Who are going to be going over to Poland next week for this delegation to meet with NATO and face to face with the refugees, so they can get their camera shots and their sound bites for their election campaigns that are dead in the water come November unless they get some kind of. Governor Polis was out at his shooting club. He had a gun in it. He had a shotgun. He wants to be the next Joe Biden. He got a shotgun. Okay. This is, at Sunflower Snowflake Stadium, whatever they call Mile High, the old Mile High. Let's have a gun by broke. See, I can't even say it without a straight face. Having another, well, again, plowshares into take the swords into plowshares. We're gonna take the guns and we're gonna make them into ancient tools. Yeah, so after World War III is done, we can start over again. Yes, the talking point on Sunday should be World War III. We are in it. Worldwide economic sanctions that are crippling economies, the use of kinetic weapons, although it is, indiscriminately being targeted against defenseless civilians and refugee centers no, war is ugly. You see, you've all been wussified because you think it's all digital and clean. The delegation, yeah. Well, Stranger things have happened. Speaking of, Chris Cuomo is back in the news. Both Cuomos are actually, believe it or not. But Chris Cuomo has officially sued his former employers over at CNN $125 million in a wrongful termination lawsuit. He is accusing Don Lemon, Jake Tapper, and then a couple of the admin people of violating. I can't get it out with a straight face. Violating journalistic ethics. Chris Cuomo says that the environment at CNN, they all knew and everybody was doing it. But now that I'm not there, I'm going to be the snitch and the rat. And I want 125 million to tell you how bad they are and how good I am because they won't hire me back. And I promise no long-winded stories. This reminds me of Weebelow's weekend when the scout leader's kid wanted in on a card game and there were enough guys and not enough cards, told him to wait, and he said, I'm gonna go tell my dad if you don't let me play. And I said, go tell your dad. The little snot did. Because when I look back at how my timeline in this world would have changed if I'd stood up to that little rat thing, um, I got kicked out of Weebelow's weekend for running a card game in the tent because it was raining. So all of our activities were, and all the counselors and the leaders and the troop guys, they were in another tent drinking beer. This little snot nosed little son of a, he wound up disrupting them. Of course, they have to now. Well, have to make an example out of somebody. Chris Cuomo, good luck with that lawsuit. And to all of the reporters from NBC, CBS, ABC, Reuters, the USA Today, America's favorite four-color fish wrap, by the way, um, all of the pundits on this nonsense of Hunter Biden and how it was Russian disinformation and this was a Trump smear, and you are all worthless. Go out and play in traffic. Go sacrifice yourself to a goat. Do the world a favor. You are oxygen thieves. You've been caught. Your political partisanship is exposed. You are a 400-pound, naked, ugly mass with a small penis or a small vagina. Nothing in transition. It's all naked and it's right there and it's small. You worthless pieces of garbage. President Biden has warned, uh, do we call him Prime Minister Xi or President Xi or just omnipresent God of the world? That's the interesting meme. Half the Americans didn't want him as president of the United States, and now he's president of the world. You mean the world looks at him as there's a consensus in the world. Yeah, that guy is out to lunch. Um, he didn't do that in his pants again, did he? Speaking of, the Queen is the Queen of England, like anybody cares. Uh, hey, Megan and what's his toes? They were going to go visit an African village and get some pictures. Not African, Chilean or South American or Ecuadorian or who cares. The villagers found out they were going to come in for a photo op, and the villagers told them to off it, but they did it in their own language. Kind of like Gaelic. It's almost dead, so don't worry about it. Queen Elizabeth isn't going to be spending any more time at Buckingham Palace. Now that they've curtailed her schedule immensely, she doesn't need that 770 room thing. And we're just doing what is going on in the hierarchy of the Queen? Because there's been a lot of people giving titles and moving things around, and then there's this Hollywood nonsense and the Netflix deal with Megan What's Her Toes. And the Pope had to speak. The Pope, well, he denounces the Russian incursion, and he's calling an end to the violence. Oh, good for His Holiness. Um, Back to Biden and the Prime Minister or President or the omnipresent God of China. Um, There doesn't seem to be a consensus on what this 2-hour phone call was about. Depending upon if you read the American version of the transcript or the Chinese sanitized, launderized, and here's your fortune cookie size version of the transcript, what the took place between these two guys in 2 hours. The fate of the world. Have you people decided what flag colors you're going to wear? There are biological research facilities in Ukraine. They have been funded by the United States. This hyping up and attaching weapons lab and biological research facilities. Now, anything else, apparently, well, I'm a Putin loyalist. No, Irish Roman Catholic conservative nationalist. Um, you can shoot me an email at scooter@scootermcgee.com. You can find me on social media. The Scooter McGee on Twitter are where I'm going to bang all these headlines from. And social media, if you want to chat later, Scooter McGee on Facebook. Um, Continued conspiracy theories in the West if they are biological weapons labs. Nobody said that. I said biological research facilities that are funded by the West. At the rally in Moscow, it is interesting the symbolisms that are coming out now after being able to watch it a couple of times. In that, the way Vladimir Putin was speaking, removing the jacket and everything, okay, just speaking, and listen to the Russian language. Oh, I should have checked. I didn't. Okay. Find a version that's clean and listen to the speech. Speech is the wrong word. Well, the teleprompter and the okay, but I put Vladimir Putin up against a teleprompter and a endurance run long before Stuttering Joe. Can't make fun of Stuttering Joe. He's handicapped. He's beyond handicapped, and it's not stuttering. The cadence, the rhythm, the crowd, understanding all words aren't Russian. Some are universal, so you, oh, uh-huh. Again, it's one thing to watch a transcribed version. I'm talking about remove that because that's also distraction. Watch it and listen to it. It's interesting to hear Putin speak, especially for an extended period of time, on the key issues of removing if this is propaganda or not. Print out a copy of the transcript and watch it as he says it and read it this way. If you got to side by side it. This argument of propaganda and oligarchs, who's good and who's bad, and they're all on the same page. Knowing what attempting to, even in Cuba terms, in the Cold War, what's, the height of all that nonsense, attempting an embargo, attempting a no-fly zone, attempting a wall, attempting isolation. World War II, Japan, isolating them from petroleum. This is not going to end well. NBC News had to make sure they hyped up the fact a group of Nigerian, Ukrainian students are refugees. They may or may not have been badly treated at the border. They're asking for the American Red Cross, the United Nations, to fully investigate this. A black student was beaten by uniformed patrol guards. They're wanting that more be done for the Nigerian students trapped behind enemy lines in Ukraine, seeking asylum, seeking refuge in another country. The American in the bread line that got killed didn't work. Am I allowed to ask the obvious question if, and by the way, there's social media and they're tweeting and they've got internet. Could they not get a hold of a good lawyer? Maybe he'll get him out. I know. I'm the one going to hell. Uh-huh. Okie dokie. The American killed in waiting in breadline in Ukraine in another senseless bombing by the evil Russians didn't work. Nope. We're going to need to roll out the Ukrainian overseas students from Nigeria. You can do that bit on the radio, and people will already get mad in their cars. I wish it were a bit. Back to Putin's speech, because I didn't explain it. You know, there are other great speeches that are you can get them. You know, what is it called? What's it called? Subtitles. You can get them in subtitles, but when you understand performing on a stage and a rhythm and a cadence and how it's done, and then you watch it, it doesn't matter what language it's in. You can really appreciate for what the look at what he's doing. And then you watch the room and you just go, holy. So it had serious religious undertones. And if you understand Moscow and the Kremlin and the Russian Orthodox, and woo, stop the car. Yeah, this was a different religious flow of a worldwide religion. Nobody in the media is talking about that. No. Kind of makes me curious why. Yeah, teleprompter went on. He can only talk. Yeah, it does. Wow, that's all you got out of that speech. You know, the Pope says this is bad. Okay, well, thank God the adults are back at the table. Confirmation of okay, so Zelensky. So Putin's doing his thing in Moscow. Meanwhile, out on the streets that night, the video doesn't look right. I don't know if it's the head and the neck right there at the line, the cobble, not the cobblestone, the color of the background, and just the scale is slightly off. I don't know what it is. It's the same thing I noticed at the President's State of the Union address. Perhaps there are universal new cameras that we're not aware of. I don't know. I still remember, though, when Anderson Cooper went down to Havana under Obama when he had Havana open, and they did the panoramic 365 of all the intersections in Havana. Oh, you forgot that story. Have they 360'd all of the streets in Ukraine? And can you do this from a studio? I don't know. I know that there was a project in Havana to do that. Remember, CNN was the first to have the holographic newscast. CNN also ran a very small piece that they were getting all the street corners in Havana, which kind of spooked me into, boy, they could actually simulate a war and never be there. In the address, Zelensky to the people of Russia and to Vladimir Putin, that Moscow and the Kremlin, Putin, the rest of the crack staff need to meet with him, Zelensky, to bring and restore territorial integrity. Oh, good. We're fighting over land, not anything important like people on it. If not, Zelensky assures and promises that Russia's, get this, costs will be so high that Russia won't be able to rise again for several generations. Zelensky said in the speech regarding Vladimir Putin and his performance to the crowd of approximately 100,000 in the stadium and approximately 100,000 in support outside the stadium, imagine 14,000 dead. Those are your soldiers you're bringing home, the ones in the stadium that aren't there. 14,000 dead Russian soldiers. Some of the numbers are catastrophic. I'm going to post them all at the start of this video when I stop it. That'll be the screenshot. This is coming from the Ukrainian government. So is this Ukrainian propaganda? We have now. Oh, I am screwing up my Deadpool. I was voting and gambling on how many World Cup soccer players versus Major League Baseball players were going to have issues this spring and summer running around and suddenly crappie flopping. Um, I got a better chance now with my bookie trying to make some bets and place your wagers on the generals left in the chain of command in the Eastern European theater. We got 5 generals dead in 22 days. Bravo. Soviet playbook. They're not in a bunker. They're they're out in the field. See, the West, you people are not getting this. This is in the Russian playbook. This is from the Soviet playbook. This is the Cold War. I mean, this is out of Hogan's Heroes, for sakes. This isn't funny. Bravo, gentlemen. Again, the initial calculations were possibly 10 to 1. When the Russians announced 498 dead. Well, I made the comment that night about Kremlin speak versus, and I think that was March 8th. You'll have to go back in time and take a look. I think that's the night of that, is March 8th. 498 dead. Well, it's Kremlin speak. It's anything is a factor of 10, 10 up or 10 down. So if it's 498, then that's 5,000 dead if it's one. Because it's not 49. They wouldn't admit that. The problem is you got 5,000 dead bodies coming home. You can't hide that in Mother Russia. There's just no fucking way. There is just no fucking way you can hide that. So then when it's probably closer to 5 to 7, the 498 is probably closer to 7. Wait a minute. And then again, it was one thing to lose one general, then it was another to lose 2. We are losing more generals in Eastern Theater of Operation. We're going to need another medal. We're going to need to promote some guys. In the old days, Hogan's Heroes being sent to the Russian front. Oh, here we go again. We're not even talking about the Ukrainian underground because there's no reason for the Ukrainian underground because Ukraine is controlling its own cities. Now, granted, the Soviet army is choking them off and controlling and bombing and shell. Well, that's what they're supposed to do. You surround them, you shell the out of them, and then they all flee. And you go in and you rape, rob, and pillage. Well, everybody's what? You guys are going to read the Sunday papers tomorrow and not read Hagar the Horrible? What part of rape, rob, and pillage are you missing? Well, you know, the robbing, as long as they don't steal anything more than $999, that's not going to be a problem. The pillaging, we're going to need a committee to define that word very specifically. And the last one, we're just not even going to entertain that. This is war, but we're not barbarians. Tell that to the Soviet army. In Putin's speech, talking about the brothers and the comrade. Yeah. See, I wasn't hearing about all of the Tatianas in the crowd. Not in the stadium, I mean in the army. His speech was very gender specific and their heroism in the field. As if the grandmothers and the mothers and the babushkas, if I just use that's the hat. I think that's the hat. I put mine on, but it's getting to be warm tomorrow. Um, God, man, you can't hide 5,000 bodies, and if it's really 14,000, holy, we've seen nothing yet. Uh, Reports of well over 25,000 Russians have been arrested in every major metropolitan city in Moscow, in Russia, protesting the military exercises in Ukraine. Comrades, do not say war. The Americans are waging war on us. The reason I could get this, you think the spin out of the White House is weird. The Russians are well aware of how much everything in America is starting to go up. See, the Russians, they kind of, once they got blue jeans and Coca-Cola and McDonald's and vinyl records and CDs, they kind of get it. What's going on over there? Well, sanctions aren't working. They're defeating the Americans. Now, what's really propaganda? Because the sanctions are defeating the Americans and everybody else opposing them. They're not affecting the Soviet Union to the naked eye, other than the allegation that the ruble is worthless. Says who? They're still functioning on the streets. Dogs and cats aren't living together. We're not seeing mass hysteria. Starlink exists. Headlines are still getting out. Something's going to have to give here. I didn't realize I wasted this much time. I'm sorry, everybody's worried about the cargo ship in the Chesapeake Bay. No, a cargo ship sank off the coast of Iran. Not seeing a lot of headlines out of it yet. I will see. I'll monitor that situation. Zelensky saying, "You keep this up, you are not going to come back to the big kids table for generations to come." Kind of bothers me. And again, as equally bothersome is this alleged meeting between President Biden and President Xi that lasted 2 hours. Talking about what exactly? And can we get a straight answer now from Press Secretary Jen Psaki on Hunter Biden's laptop? The chain of command, the chain of custody, especially the chain of lies, web, and deceit that was led through actually her as acting then as not press sec. Well, you may want to check what her job title was when that's right, with the, ooh, sorry. Might be a conflict of interest there, me even bringing that up. Never mind. You have short attention span theaters anyway. Yeah. Could we be told what they, maybe talked about? How about a cartoon? NATO, the European Union, and the United Nations all agreeing now for more talks. Oh yeah, this will turn off tomorrow. Peace is at hand. The madmen have come to the abyss and realized their craziness and taken a step back, and there shall be world peace. Electric car sales in the United States have spiked 84% in the last 30 days. So the ones that were all electric are now pretty much off every lot in the United States. And there's the all electric, the hybrid electric, the gas electric. There's a boat stuck in the Chesapeake, and another boat. There's a cargo ship stuck in the Chesapeake. Keep that on the burner right there. We may need that story. And then the one in Iran, well, off the coast of Iran. They sink all the time. I know. Just for no reason whatsoever. The electric ones that are unmanned catch on fire and then could drop to the bottom of the ocean. Hey, the technology to clean up the ocean is amazing. We just found Endurance, remember? Yeah. Could you maybe focus on one just story here? Because and what was in the cargo ship off the coast of Iran? How did it just sink? Even the Mayday calls and they just don't. And whoa, 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 whoa. Well, a semi carrying Budweiser after St. Patrick's Day in Colorado. No, 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 no. You just think the people are that stupid. 4 Marines are dead in Norway while in a training exercise with NATO that originated for their 4. They came out of Camp Lejeune. No troops. See, they weren't there. They were here doing extra. I get it. No troops. No uniforms. No general coats. No hats with the scrambled eggs on the brims. No, I promise. I can only promise I'll be with you every night at 11 p.m. for as long as I can have a Coke and a smoke and ramble through these headlines. I am, however, being suggested to bring back On This Day in Illuminati history just as on this day and go through the headlines of what nobody seems to remember anymore and maybe just kind of jar you a little awake versus a weekly bang, 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 and I have no opinion other than the Pope says that, well, the Pope denounces Russia's actions in Ukraine and he's called for the end of violence. Then Governor Polis was out on a Saturday with a shotgun. Sure he was. God, I wish I could make this up. En el nombre del Padre, el Filho y Espíritu Santo. Amen. Go with God. Be well. Vaya con Dios. Find me on the World Wide Web, the Scooter McGee on Twitter. Like or subscribe these videos, or maybe have your head examined. And social media is on Facebook, Scooter McGee. And that'll be it. Good night. Drive safe. Thank you for coming, and Godspeed. God well. I give up.